Hi everyone, this is Cindy and I'm going to be summarizing the first article in the Entity and Language series called Entity First Indexing with Mobile First Crawling. So this is a 5-part series and I'm just summarizing the first article in this video. Now the idea in this first article is simply that we wanted to present our idea of mobile first indexing and recontextualize it as entity first indexing. Obviously, we've put out a lot of speculation on what the transition to entity-first indexing actually means, and we believe that it means a lot more than what Google is saying. Google is talking about mobile-first indexing as a simple shift in the crawler from using the desktop crawler to relying mostly on the mobile crawler, but that's an easy change. Google used to change the user agent of their crawler all the time without any kind of notice, and it wasn't that hard. So it shouldn't, if that's all that there really is, number one, it shouldn't have taken them 2 years to launch, and number two, it wouldn't have been called mobile first indexing, it would have been called mobile first crawling. And so the idea in this article is simply the theory that organizing the world's information has gotten harder and harder as the world and the internet gets bigger and bigger and we create more data all the time. And there's been a shift in efficiency in terms of what is most cost efficient and time efficient for Google to focus on. So it used to be expensive to host things on the web, but cheaper to crawl, but that balance has flipped and now Google prefers to host things because crawling has gotten so arduous. There's so much more because Google's always encouraged us to not necessarily retire content, but to keep it up and 301 it and stuff like that. And that's made their life harder and harder over the years. Add on to it that there are more and more websites, more and more data online. And so I think that the efficiency of the old model wasn't working for them anymore. So they wanted to switch it and focus on organizing a different way, especially focusing on their ability to host information and organize the information that they find in crawls and in other ways by entities. So what's an entity? An entity is a universal concept that precedes keywords. So the idea of a mother, let's say, the concept of mother happens in every single language, and there are keywords that describe this entity idea or entity concept of mother, but the idea is its own thing. It doesn't need all the different languages. It doesn't mean any one language. It exists as an idea. And if you think about Google trying to use machine learning on topics, they'll have an easier job when they aggregate all of the information that they have and don't focus so much on language, because let's think about it in the context of an image search. If I search for a blue chair in Google Images, I probably am looking for a picture, in which case I don't care what language the website is written in. I want the best pictures of blue chairs available. And when Google was limiting my image search by the language that the content around the image was written in, they were providing a worse result. But when they translate the content, or they understand the content, maybe not translate, but kind of understand and have it indexed to an entity or to an entity understanding, then they can show all of the information regardless of the language because it's organized by entity or by concept or idea, rather than just by URL and text linguistic understanding. So this is a whole new concept. I understand that it's kind of difficult, but it does provide a cohesive theory of why the switch to mobile first indexing is important, why it took so long, why Google would have done it other than just to handle mobile phones, and what the future might look like. Because when you think about entity first indexing, organizing the world's information on entities or ideas means that Google gets to leverage what it knows in some languages and cross-apply it to other languages where it struggles. So we know that Google was built in English, schema is organized in English, so Google's deepest understanding is in English. But in other languages, and especially languages where there aren't as many people searching, so they don't have as much ability to quickly machine learn topics, it's easier for Google to use what it knows and what it's machine learned in English or other large languages and apply that to these smaller languages and say, oh, okay, mother is related to father and daughter and son and grandmother, and these are how those relationships work. And so rather than having to start with a blank slate in every language and say, oh, what is this mother concept? I don't see enough links or I don't have enough engagement to really understand this concept. Instead of doing that, Google can just understand the translations between the languages, understand what words kind of are related to the same entity concepts, and then build from this larger entity concept and use those relationships in every language where they can find the entity correlations and save themselves time, but also do a better job of serving correct results, serving good, useful, rich results, like the blue chair example, like serving the best pictures of blue chairs in every language, right? Because in English, maybe we have plenty of great blue chair pictures, but what about a smaller language where there's just not a lot of interior design content for blue chair written in that language? They would want the content from other languages to appear. They would want Google to understand that just because they're writing blue chair in this language doesn't mean that they're opposed to getting image results of a blue chair when the content was written in another language. So it's a way to kind of jump the line and let Google use what it knows in some languages and apply it to other languages. And this is actually a good correlation of how people learn language, right? If you grow up speaking one language and you know that this is a table and this is a chair and they often occur together and you sit in a chair and eat off of the table, when you learn another language and you learn different words to describe those things, you don't have to relearn that this is the table and this is the chair and they often go together. You have that basic understanding. And so Google is actually in this theory of mobile first indexing becoming more like a human or using artificial intelligence in a very clever way where they don't have to relearn everything as if they didn't have context to begin with. The last thing to understand is that mobile first indexing, the way we've been talking about it, is more like we're redefining the words in mobile first indexing to mean portable. So mobile is not just a mobile phone, but it means content that's portable that can be shown in a lot of different contexts. So that means that can be accessible in a mobile search, in a desktop or laptop search, but also maybe in a voice search from TV, shown in a Google Home Hub, spoken in an Android Auto or a Google Home voice-only context. And so making content understood in its relationship entity or its entity relationships makes it a more likely conversational or portable piece of content because Google isn't just kind of pretending that it doesn't know the meaning of the word. It's saying we know the meaning of the word. We know this is mother and it's related to grandmother and it's related to daughter and things like that. And so it gives them the context where a voice-only interaction could be better since they only have one shot in a voice search to get the thing right. You don't get to skim results like you would in a computer or a phone search. They have to be right. So having the contextual information is important. So redefining mobile first indexing, the first part is portable, meaning can be put on any device with or without a visual interface. First is just prioritized. It means that Google prefers mobile content or portable content, but if it's not mobile or if it's not portable, they still have it indexed. It's just not as preferred. And then indexing is, of course, organization. The idea of an index is how do you organize this vast database of information that you have? And it used to be, our theory is that it used to be that Google was organized based on country and language, and learning these things in silos independently. And now Google has stopped having different algorithms for different countries. They're trying to stop having different algorithms for different languages. And they've stopped, or in many cases stopped, redirecting different ccTLDs based on your location, because they want to, instead of maintaining all these different versions of the search engine and the algorithm, they want to have a holistic thing that makes their life easier. So entity first indexing does that for them. And that's an index, right? When we index on entity rather than on URL, then life gets easier and the language becomes less of a critical part and more of a modifier. So as time goes on, the context of search is getting broader because we have more devices that are web enabled, and it becomes more likely that the best result might not be a website. When people are searching from their TV, a website isn't the best result. When people are searching from their car in an Android Auto voice search, the best website or the best result might not be a website. So think of mobile first indexing, portable, prioritized organization of information, but also what that means in a pragmatic way is that content that's not a website is going to be prioritized, especially in some contexts where websites don't make sense. So that could mean that videos are preferred, especially on a TV search, that audio is preferred, especially when you're in your car, that recipes are preferred on a Google Home Hub. They might be taking the place where the query was submitted or the way the query was submitted as a contextual signal to reorganize and reprioritize the rankings. Or in many cases, they may just be able to show one result. And so they have to be able to guess what is the best result for this context. And as SEOs for many years, we've talked about searcher intent. And it would be silly to assume that the starting device or the searching device doesn't give us any strong signals or doesn't give Google any strong signals about searcher intent. It absolutely does. And so entity first indexing allows things that are not websites to be associated with entity understanding and to rank when it's appropriate. And so that's really what's covered in this first article in the Entity and Language series, which is called Entity First Indexing with Mobile First Crawling. So thanks for listening.